12 Kinds of Ice by Ellen Bryan Obed. Illustrations by Barbara McClintock. This is a read aloud from the Fountas and Pinnell classroom, used with permission. The first ice. The first ice came on the sheep pails in the barn. A skim of ice so thin that it broke when we touched it. The second ice. The second ice was thicker. We could pick it out of the pails like panes of glass. We would hold it up in our mittened hands and look through it. Then we would drop it on the hard ground to watch it splinter into 100 pieces. The third ice. The third ice was the ice that would not break. We hit it with the heels of our boots. We tapped it with the handle of an old rake, but the ice stayed firm. My sister and I had heard it coming the night before. We lay in our beds, listening to the cold cracking the maple limbs in the yard. We had seen it coming in the close, round moon. We felt it coming through the windows onto our quilts. We had gone to sleep talking about the ice that would not break, because it was this ice that would bring us what we were waiting for. Field ice. The morning field ice came was like no other. Ice froze upon our day, and at school we could not think clearly. Math and geography and reading were frozen solid. All day long we talked about our first skate, and on the way home from school we pressed our faces against the windows on the bus to look at the field ice. The one who saw it first was making the most important announcement of the year. When the bus stopped in front of our house, we raced up the driveway and inside for our skates. We ran down to the neighbor's field, where a narrow strip of ice was waiting for us. Never mind the hay stubbles sticking up everywhere. Never mind the small space. Never mind the first arguments between hockey sticks and figure skates. Never mind. Field ice was short-lived but glorious. It also spoke of stream ice. If the nights continued cold, stream ice came quickly after field ice. Dad took us in the car up the road to the stream where we had fished for trout in the spring. We sat down on its hard brown bank to tie up our skates. Then we followed Dad as he followed the stream. Sometimes we'd stop and lie down on our stomachs. We'd put our eyes close to the ice to watch the little fish and slender reeds moving in the cold current of the stream bed. Then we'd follow Dad again until the stream smalled to a brook of bent alders. We followed him into the frozen thicket. We tried to see how far we could skate between branches, over stones, and around old logs. All afternoon, the stream was ours until it was time to take off our skates and walk back to the car. All the way home, we talked about black ice. Black ice is water shocked still by the cold before the snow. For black ice, Dad took us in the car a half-hour's ride to Great Pond, where on our summer dock, we tied up our winter skates. We could see the clouds, the blue sky, the tree-edged shoreline in the mirror of black ice beneath us. We could see ourselves in the glass, our long-winged spirals, our flashing blades, our new mittens. We skated around the islands and in and out of coves. We looked beneath the ice and saw what we could not see in summer. Boulders and cracks between boulders. Black shadows and sunken tree branches. And we saw what was not there, the sullen backs and open jaws of hibernating monsters rising up from the lake bottom. We made huge backward circles and listened to the sharp cuts of our blades. We skated out to the middle of the lake, the forbidden place of frothing whitecaps in the summer. We could hear the ice cracking and groaning as it stretched itself into the cold. We sped to silver speeds at which lungs and legs, clouds and sun, wind and cold raced together. Our blades spit out silver. Our lungs breathed out silver. Our minds burst with silver, while the winter sun danced silver down our bending backs. We sped 1 mile, 2 miles, 4 miles, down the lake on a day of black ice and silver. Black ice, black shadows, black shores, black islands. Silver blades, silver speeds, silver sun. But black ice did not stay. As suddenly as it had come, it disappeared under the cover of the first snow. With the first snow came the time for garden ice. What was our vegetable garden in summer became our skating rink in winter. We made it with boards and snow, a garden hose, and hours of work. In October, after the frost had killed the last of the plants, we cleared the garden of rock and root and withered stalk. We raked the surface until it was level. Dad would lie down on the ground to check for holes and little hills. Then we would rake some more. We put stakes at the 4 corners of the garden and connected them with a string. We carried the long rink boards that lay piled beside the barn to the edges of the garden. We nailed them to stakes hammered into the ground along the string. Then we waited for the cold to freeze the ground, and we waited for snow. When the snow came, we began making garden ice. The first step was snow packing. Everyone worked on this. Dad and Mom, my brothers, my sister, and I. We stamped and packed the snow hard with our boots and shovels. We packed it with our skis. We packed it with the toboggan on which 1 or 2 of us sat to be pulled back and forth across the hardening surface. Suddenly, Dad would say, "Time to get the hose." When it was my turn, I'd run inside the house to the cellar stairs, turn on the light, and descend into the dark-shadowed cellar. The garden hose was curled up by the water tank, a long black snake with its nozzle mouth. Dad was waiting by a small hole, cut beside the sealed cellar window. I passed the snake's nozzle mouth into Dad's gloved hands. As Dad pulled, I uncurled the black rubber snake, making it easy for it to slide up and out through the hole. When the hose was completely outside, I'd hear the muffled call, "Ready!" This was my signal to turn on the faucet. Dad sprayed water lightly on the snow while we continued to stamp and pack. Soon, ice patches began to form. We worked until we had to give the surface time to freeze solid. One of us would go inside to turn off the hose and pull it back into its nesting coil beside the water tank. We continued these ice-making sessions after supper, just before bed, and early in the morning for several days until it was there. Until there it was, garden ice. But by then, we didn't call it garden ice. We called it, and this will be continued later in the week.